Hey, I don't know about you, but I don't like waiting. And I feel like the older I get, the more impatient I become when it comes to waiting. Now, don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about, because we live in such an instant generation that none of us like to wait anymore. Everything is at our fingertips. You know, you wait at a stoplight and it seems like, how long is this light going to be red? And when's it going to turn green? And then when it does turn green, the guy in front of you doesn't take off because he's playing on his cell phone. He's so important, he's got to text somebody, and you honk your horn, let's go, I'm in a hurry. Or you go to Publix, or you go to Winn-Dixie, and you have to stand in line and wait to check out. Or how about this, you go through a fast food restaurant. I don't know why they call it fast food anymore, because you have to sit in line for 5 minutes to get a hamburger. What's going on in this world? Well, I'm glad I got that off my chest. I don't like waiting, and yet we know that sometimes we have to wait for certain things in life. Now, last week in Joshua chapter 1, we know that God chose a new leader, Joshua, to take the place of Moses. And there had to be an atmosphere of excitement and enthusiasm as this new generation prepared to cross over the Jordan River into the Promised Land. Obviously, this new generation had heard their parents and their grandparents talk about the Promised Land, the land of milk and honey, and all of a sudden, here they were, ready to cross and possess the land. So here's the question. Why did God make them wait 3 days before they crossed? Well, let's look at Joshua chapter 1, verse number 10. Then Joshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, pass through the midst of the camp, command the people, saying, prepare provision for yourselves. For within 3 days you are to cross this Jordan to go into the Promised Land, or to possess the land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess it. So, you know, Joshua and the people had to be pumped up. Again, they've heard about it, and here they are. They're right on the edge of the Jordan, ready to cross. So they had to be chomping at the bit. And then the news comes, you have to wait 3 more days before you cross. How many of you have gotten excited about something and then find out you had to wait? Maybe excited about a new position at work, and then all of a sudden the boss tells you, well, we're not gonna make that move now, or that position's not available now. Or excited about going somewhere only to find out that you're not going to be able to leave when you thought you were going to leave. Again, nobody likes waiting. Nobody likes waiting. And yet they had to wait another 3 days. I remember years ago I was flying to Thailand, and I was going there for ministry and then up to the children's home that we support in Chiang Rai. And I'm always excited when I go to Thailand, and I love to visit the kids' home and see how the kids are growing and progressing in their faith and in their life. And I had to fly through, I believe it was Tokyo at that time. Landed in Tokyo, had about an hour and a half layover in Tokyo, which gave me time to get off the plane and check my emails and wash my face and kind of freshen up. Then the announcement came. The flight is going to be delayed 30 minutes. Then another announcement came. The flight's going to be delayed an hour. Finally, after announcement, the flight was delayed over 3 hours, almost 4 hours before we could take off from Tokyo to get to Bangkok. And man, I was frustrated. All the passengers, we got to go, we need to go. Well, we found out it was a mechanical issue. And I'm glad they delayed the flight, because the mechanical issue probably saved my life and the lives of all the other passengers that were on that plane. You see, sometimes there's a reason to wait. We don't understand it at the time, but there's a reason to wait. And when it comes to our faith in the Lord, when it comes to walking by faith, there are times that God has us wait. And we may not understand why He's delaying us. And the fact that we're not moving doesn't mean God's not moving. Just because we can't see something going on, or we feel inactive, or we feel stationary, doesn't mean that God is not coordinating events and lining things up according to his sovereign purpose. When it comes to waiting, there's two things we have to understand. First, we have to understand what the will of God is. God has a will. For them, the will of God was to cross over and possess the promised land. But not only do we need to know the will of God, we need to know the timing of God's will. Because God always has a perfect time. And I've learned in my life that the right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing. So God had them wait 3 days, and he had them wait for a reason. Well, what was the reason? Because there was a need for salvation. A need for salvation. And we see that in the second chapter, verse number 1. Then Joshua, the son of Nun, sent two men as spies secretly from Shittim, saying, "Go view the land, especially Jericho." So they went and came into the house of a harlot whose name was Rahab, and they lodged there. Now here we see Joshua again exercising good leadership. Before they go across and possess the land and deal with the enemy, he sent 2 spies out. And we know Joshua knew something about the importance of spies because years before he was one of the 12 spies that originally spied out the land. But here, years later, he sends 2 spies in. Why? He wanted to know what they were facing. He wanted to know the challenges that lay before Israel. He wanted to know how much it was going to cost. He wanted to know the strategy of what they needed to do. Good leadership always processes and tries to get as much information as possible. So Joshua sent the 2 spies in, and notice here, they stayed in the home of Rahab, who was a harlot. That's right, a harlot. Wait a minute, did you say harlot? Yes. His ways are not our ways. And God chooses to do things that we would never choose to do. He sent the spies in, and they stayed in the home of Rahab, a harlot. You say, how can God do that? How can a holy God choose to use a harlot or put his 2 spies, his representatives, in the home of a harlot? Let me remind you of something, and this is so good, and I think it's important. If you look at the book of Hebrews chapter 11, in Hebrews chapter 11, we call that the Faith Hall of Fame. In Hebrews chapter 11, there are names listed of the greatest patriarchs, the greatest individuals of faith in the Old Testament. There are only 2 women mentioned in Hebrews chapter 11. In the Faith Hall of Fame, only 2 women are mentioned. You know who they are? The first one is Sarah. We know Sarah was married to Abraham, and Sarah gave her 90-year-old body to carry Isaac, the child of promise. The other woman that's mentioned in the book of Hebrews, the Faith Hall of Fame, is Rahab, another woman who gave her body to make money. That's crazy, isn't it? And yet God had a purpose in sending the spies and making Israel wait. They being these 2 ladies, Sarah and Rahab, had something in common. And here's what it is. Both of them expressed their unwavering faith in God through their good works. Unwavering faith in God through their good works. We know in Joshua chapter 2, verses 8 through 14, that Rahab clearly placed her faith in the Lord. She clearly became a follower or a believer in the Lord. And because of that, God saved not only Rahab the harlot, but he also saved his spies through her protection. In James chapter 2, I want you to look at this. In verse number 23, and so it happened just as the scriptures say, Abraham believed God, and God counted him as righteous because of his faith. He was even called the friend of God. So you see, we are shown to be right by God or right with God by what we do, not by faith alone. Rahab, the prostitute, is another example. She was shown to be right with God by her actions when she hid those messengers and sent them safely away by a different road. Just as the body, listen to what James says, just as the body is dead without breath, so also faith is dead without good works. So here we see James comparing Abraham and Rahab the harlot. And you couldn't find two more different people. Abraham was a Jew and Rahab was a Gentile. Abraham was a godly man and Rahab was a sinful woman, a harlot. Abraham was a friend of God while Rahab belonged to the very enemies of God. Yet they had something in common. What was it? Both exercised their faith in God. And because they had faith in God and because they trusted God, their faith was demonstrated through their good works or through their actions. Listen, God had a purpose making Abraham and Sarah wait 25 years for Isaac to be born. God had a purpose making the Israelites wait 3 days to cross the Jordan River. And God has a purpose in making you and I wait. I don't like it. Sometimes I get impatient with the Lord. But just because I'm waiting and I feel inactive and I become impatient doesn't mean God's not working behind the scenes for me or for you or for us. God is always working on our behalf. So we need to learn to wait on the Lord, trust in the Lord. What did Isaiah say? They that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They will rise up with wings like eagles. They will run and not be weary, and they will walk and never faint. My friend, God has a purpose in waiting. Wait on the Lord, and God will bring it to pass in good time. I appreciate you so much. Hope you joined us right here in the big house, 9:15 or 11:15. God bless.